Yeah. Yeah.
It's your boy Jay Gills right here at the Real Deal Sports Show, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, Super Bowl 58. We got the Radmen in the building.
Yes, we do. We are here interviewing. We're on a roll on a Monday, first day, and we got a lot of guests lined up for the week. So stay tuned to Real Deal Sports Show. And who do we have with us right now, Jay?
Well,
Gills?
Radman, we got a special guest because the work that she's doing is unmatched. You know, you won't find it any other place. The CEO of Not Living, it's Dr. Stacey Tidwell. Dr. Stacey, how you doing?
I am doing awesome. Thank you very much. Not free living.
Not free living, absolutely.
Not free living. There you go. There you go. Welcome to Real Deal Sports Show.
Speaking of Not Free Living, can you just give us, a little bit about Not Free Living and how it came about?
Absolutely. So Not Free Living was actually birthed through my own experiences, my own education, as well as my life experiences. And Not Free Living is really an opportunity for people to understand that we all live with our life tied in knots. And most of the time we don't know that we need to have those knots untied. So because of that, and my own knots that I had in my life, as I was going through my untying process, I took away some valuable tools that I wanted to also impart to others so that they could untie the knots in their own lives and live a life full of peace, tranquility, and true authenticity.
Awesome. Beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit about the Athletic Tree of Humanity?
Yes. So the Athletic Tree of Humanity actually came about because of the original program, the Tree of Humanity. And the Tree of Humanity is where I look at the 4 parts of a tree and liken them to us as human beings. You have the roots, you have the trunk, you have the leaves, and the branches, well, the branches and the leaves. And so I take each part of those and I say, for the roots, that's our foundational belief structures, what you've been taught to believe from the moment that you were born. Then there's the trunk, which is our human conditions, which is something that all of us have. We all have human conditions.
Yes.
Then there's the branches. The branches are our emotions and feelings that we try to suppress. We don't want other people to see how we're actually feeling. And then you have the leaves, which is your behaviors, the way you show up in the world. So I help people to be able to go through a process called tracing your tree so that you can self-regulate and recalibrate so that you can get along better in the world with other human beings.
Absolutely. And, biblically speaking, when you throw a seed, it has to be on the right grounds in order for it to grow. So when you talk about us and the knots that we have in the tree in which you're creating, man, you need a bunch of good people to untie those knots so that when you're planting it with somebody, it can grow next to some good ground.
Absolutely.
And that spreads. But as we're here covering the Super Bowl, you have a program with some specifically for elite athletes. There's no more elite athletes than the ones that we are covering here today. Can you tell us a little bit about your program for those elite athletes out there?
Absolutely. So as you all may know, working in the area of sports, of athletics, is a very daunting task, right? And oftentimes they're taught to have the mindset of being on the field, of being on the court, right? But they're not taught the mindset when they're outside of the game, right? When you're outside of the game, when you're living with your family, when you're operating your personal business, when you're operating, because a lot of them have private businesses too, right? They need to have a different mindset in being able to do those things in life, especially when it comes close to the time of retirement. When you start thinking about what that looks like, you have a lot of athletes who are abusers, or they're being abused. You have a lot of athletes that deal with mental health struggles, depression, right? Because the game is their whole life. Well, what do you do outside of the game? So that's where the Tree of Humanity comes in. We take the foundational belief structure that they were taught in the game that they play every single day with the fans, with the teammates, with the coaches, and we say, how do you actually build your life from that foundation so that you're still perfectly balanced in real life?
And I say amen because in my experience covering the different teams, covering these Super Bowls, when I talk to these athletes, these people, these entertainers, I always highlight their faith. And a lot of the time when you're dealing with an athlete, that's that functional, that structural, foundational piece is their faith. Have you worked with anybody who, it's easy for me. I'm a Christian, but there's so many faiths out there, whether it's the Muslim faith or a lot of different faiths. When you're a chaplain in the NFL, you have to be able to cover and talk about all of those. Have you worked with people with maybe a different faith of you, and how have you used that foundation to kind of still unknot those knots.
It's interesting you should say that because one part of the program is actually dealing with the human condition of spirituality. Spirituality people often relate to religion.
Right. Yes.
And spirituality is much bigger than religion. Religion is only one part of it. So I help people to understand that whatever it is that you believe in, whomever it is that you believe in, that's your spiritual walk. It is all about the energy that we possess and what we believe in that's higher than ourselves. And so that is actually one of the human conditions that we touch upon in the program so that people understand we all believe in something. And I often tell people, because I have some people who will say, well, I don't believe, I'm not a believer. But you have to believe in something in order to not believe.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
You have to have some sort of faith that is true, so I'm not going to believe it. Absolutely. I help people to understand that because most people don't think like that.
No, they don't.
So I deal with a whole
That's real deep. That's deep stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's real deep. And can you talk about some of the awards? Because not only athletes, but also working with police officers and who are some of the best groups that you've worked with?
So the police officers
that you enjoy working with?
Yeah, so the police officers was probably one of the most challenging because in one of the classes, I had the police officers that they got it. They got it immediately. In the other class, I had police officers who didn't want to get it. Right?
Therein lies the challenge.
They did not want to get it. They did not believe that they have any biases.
Wow.
A police officer with no bias.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you
Really?
imagine that?
Did you start laughing when he said
I said,
is that a joke? Or what?
I said, what's interesting is that you're accusing me
Yes.
of race baiting when I never actually mentioned race in the class.
See, isn't that interesting?
That's-
You hear what you want to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they were the most challenging, but they were also the most rewarding because I still see some of those police officers out on the road
Okay.
and they'll go, you were the one that did that.
Right.
How's my mindset? I'm like,
Wow.
you tell me.
Right.
Right. So they
Right.
got the concept, and that's what I told them. Even if you don't get it here, it's going to resonate with you later. So I was teaching them how to go from one call to the next and not carry biases from those calls, and how to see people as human beings, not a call that you're out on.
Right.
They're not just a number. They're not just another case.
No.
They're not just another call. That these are people having real human experiences. And 9 times out of 10, you're meeting them at one of the worst moments that they've had in a
True.
long time.
Absolutely.
So you have to bring your humanity into it in order to get humanity out of it.
Absolutely. And in the mental health and the mental illness situation in America is just, since the pandemic, it seemed to really explode. It probably was already there.
Yes.
But we just, after the pandemic and people being in the houses for about a year almost, you see it so prevalently, especially in the African American communities. How can people deal with that, with that mental illness situation?
You have to first acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it. We all are impacted by mental health. Whether you're mentally healthy or whether you need mental health coaching, we all are impacted by mental health in some form or fashion.
And we all in our family have people, or someone in your family that's mentally. I can name a couple people in my family now, but you can always, people can know that there's someone, but people don't want to, they identify it, but they don't do anything about it.
And part of that is what I talk about with the roots, our foundational beliefs, especially in the African American community.
Yes.
What goes on in this house
Stays in this house.
Absolutely. Now,
why do we know that, right?
Yeah.
But
Talk to us.
Yeah.
What they have taught us by doing that is to live a life full of pride and secrecy. And I'm gonna tell you where the challenge is with what goes on in this house stays in this house. We don't ever talk about it in this house.
Sure don't.
We don't talk about it. We're told not to talk about it outside, but we don't talk about it inside either.
Sure don't.
And so where do you put those feelings and emotions? Where do you put those experiences? What do we do with that?
I laugh because, me and my wife, we actually talked to some people and learned about our experiences, and, it's the same thing as you said, and I just see it so heavily in my life. We don't talk about it inside, we don't talk about it outside.
Right.
But yet, we have to get to a point now with having a family of my own to where, we have to be able to express and talk and bring these things up. It reminds me of a Drake bar. He said it's issues at hand that we're not discussing. You feel me?
right.
And that's exactly where I see this is going. So the athletic tree of humanity is something that we all need as a people. As I told y'all when we started, Dr. Stacy was going to come through with it, her own thing. She's her own self, genuine and unique. And where can they find that? Where else can they find that?
So Not Free Living is the website, www.notfreeliving.com. And not free, keep in mind, is spelled with a K because we're untying knots. And I'm on all social media platforms as Stacy, that's EY.
That's
Stacy,
EY.
that's EY.
That's Stacy, that's EY. You feel
Stacy,
me?
that's EY, one
that's
word.
right.
So they can reach out to anyone on my team by going through one of those outlets. And then our email is untied
Untied.
at Not Free Living.
We got to speak it. You know, we speak in untiedness. Dr.
right.
Stacy, y'all, and that's EY.
That's right.
Glad to have you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
coming on
much.
Real Deal
Thank you.
Sports Show. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to having you back again real soon.
Absolutely. I would love to. Thank you.
You perfect timing, too.
That's right.
Perfect
Take care.
Okay. Look how you got one.
All right.
Perfect timing.